how people slept, bathed, and dressed in ancient Greece. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Tonight we're traveling back about 2,500 years to ancient Athens, where you'll discover that the daily rituals of sleeping, bathing, and dressing were far more complicated and far more interesting than you might imagine. You'll wake up in a world where your bed might be made of rope, your bath might involve a slave with a sponge, and your outfit could determine whether you live or die. So settle in, close your eyes, and let's step into the sandals of an ordinary Athenian citizen circa 450 BCE. You wake up slowly, your consciousness seeping back like honey through a sieve. But something's wrong. Your back aches in ways that would make a modern chiropractor weep with joy at the business opportunity. Your neck feels like it's been twisted by an Olympic wrestler, and there's a strange dampness in the air that seems to cling to your skin like a needy relative. You're lying on what the Greeks call a klein, a bed frame made of wood with leather straps or rope stretched across it like a primitive hammock. On top of this engineering marvel, you have a thin mattress stuffed with wool feathers if you're lucky, or straw if you're not. The pillow beneath your head is a small, firm cushion that would be rejected by modern prison systems as too uncomfortable. The room around you is dim, lit only by the pale light filtering through a small window. No glass, of course, just an opening in the wall that you can cover with a wooden shutter when the weather turns nasty. The walls are made of sun-dried brick, painted in simple geometric patterns that your wife insisted would make the room more sophisticated. You're not convinced, but you've learned that marital harmony is worth more than interior design opinions. As your eyes adjust, you notice the familiar smell of olive oil lamps, that slightly acrid, nutty scent that permeates every Greek home. Mixed with it is the aroma of last night's dinner, barley porridge, olives, and a bit of fish that might have been fresher when Pericles was young. The air carries other scents too, the earthy smell of the courtyard garden, the not unpleasant mustiness of wool clothing, and something else. Something that reminds you that personal hygiene in ancient Greece was both simpler and more complicated than you might expect. You stretch, feeling every joint protest against the rope bed's enthusiastic lumps and sags. Your himation, a rectangular piece of wool that serves as both blanket and daytime cloak, has twisted around your legs like a fabric python. Beneath it, you're wearing a simple tunic called a chiton, made of linen or wool depending on the season and your social status. It's comfortable enough, but it's wrinkled in ways that would horrify a modern dry cleaner. The house is quiet, except for the soft sounds of your family stirring in other rooms. Your wife is already up. You can hear her moving around the kitchen area, probably preparing the morning meal. In ancient Athens, the day begins early, partly because there's no electric lighting to extend the evening, and partly because there's simply too much work to do to waste time lying in bed, contemplating the meaning of life. You sit up slowly, your bare feet touching the cold clay floor. The floor is covered in places with woven mats or rugs, but they're small and practical rather than the wall-to-wall luxury you might expect. Heating a Greek house in winter is an expensive proposition involving charcoal braziers and a lot of smoke, so you've learned to appreciate any insulation you can get. As you stand, you realize you need to face one of the less glamorous aspects of ancient Greek life: the morning constitutional. Your house, if you're a reasonably prosperous citizen, has a small room with a bench that has a hole in it positioned over a pit. If you're less fortunate, you'll be making a trip to the public latrines, where privacy is a flexible concept and conversation is apparently mandatory. But first, you need to dress properly. In ancient Athens, how you dress isn't just about comfort or fashion, it's about citizenship status and sometimes survival. Get it wrong, and you might find yourself on the wrong end of a very public conversation about your place in society. You unwrap yourself from the twisted himation and stand there in your chiton, feeling the cool morning air on your skin. The fabric is surprisingly comfortable. Linen is light and breathable, perfect for the Mediterranean climate, but it's also surprisingly complicated to wear properly. The chiton is essentially a large rectangle of fabric that you have to fold, pin, and drape in specific ways to achieve the right look. For men, the process is somewhat simpler than for women, but it still requires a certain amount of skill and patience. You start by folding the fabric lengthwise, then pinning it at the shoulders with bronze or iron pins called fibulae. These aren't just functional, they're often decorative, showing off your wealth and taste. The cheap ones are plain bronze, but if you're doing well, you might have silver or even gold fibulae, possibly decorated with intricate patterns or tiny sculptures. The chiton hangs to about your knees, and you can adjust the length by pulling the fabric up through a belt around your waist. Too short, and you look like you're trying to show off your legs like a young athlete. Too long, and you look like you're playing dress up in your father's clothes. Getting it just right is an art form that takes years to master. Over the chiton, you'll wear the hamash and that rectangular cloak that doubled as your blanket. The hamation is where things get really complicated. It's a large piece of wool, typically about 6 feet by 9 feet, and there are specific ways to drape it depending on the occasion, your age, and your social status. Young men might wear it pinned at the right shoulder, leaving the left arm free. Older, more distinguished citizens might drape it over both shoulders, creating a more formal look. The color and quality of your himation also send messages. Purple dye made from murex shells is incredibly expensive, so expensive that wearing purple marks you as either very wealthy or very pretentious. Most people stick to natural wool colors, white, brown, or black. Some fabrics are dyed with cheaper materials, madder root for redwood, for blue, or saffron for yellow. Your himation is a respectable brown, which suggests you're doing well enough to afford dyed cloth, but not so well that you're showing off about it. As you're adjusting the drape of your himation, you catch sight of yourself in a polished bronze mirror. The reflection is dim and slightly distorted, but it's enough to remind you that ancient Greek standards of male beauty were different. If you're a proper Athenian citizen, you're probably bearded unless you're very young. The beard isn't just fashion, it's a mark of maturity and citizenship. Slaves and barbarians might be clean-shaven, but a respectable Greek man wears his beard with pride. Your hair is another matter entirely. The fashion for men's hair in classical Athens tends toward the relatively short and well-groomed, but not too short. Too short suggests you're a slave or a soldier. Too long suggests you're either a philosopher, which is suspicious, or a Spartan, which is worse. You run your fingers through your hair, trying to achieve that perfect balance between respectably groomed and trying too hard. The morning routine of dressing is interrupted by the sound of your wife calling from the kitchen. Breakfast is ready, and in a Greek household, meals are social events that follow strict patterns. You can smell barley cakes baking, mixed with the scent of honey and olive oil. Your stomach rumbles, reminding you that ancient Greek breakfasts, while simple, were often quite satisfying. But before you can eat, there's the matter of washing. Personal hygiene in ancient Greece was both more and less complicated than modern routines. On one hand, the Greeks were obsessed with cleanliness. They believed that a clean body was essential for a healthy soul. On the other hand, their methods for achieving cleanliness were creative. You make your way to the washing area, a small room or corner of the courtyard where water is kept in large ceramic jars called amphorae. The water is cold. Heating water for washing is a luxury reserved for special occasions or the very wealthy. You dip a small bronze or ceramic basin into the amphora and splash the cold water on your face and hands. The shock of cold water is both refreshing and mildly torturous, but it certainly wakes you up. For a more thorough cleaning, you'll use a combination of olive oil and a curved bronze or iron tool called a strigil. The process is simple but effective. You rub olive oil all over your skin, then use the strigil to scrape off the oil along with dead skin, sweat, and whatever else has accumulated since your last bath. It's not exactly what you'd call relaxing, but it works surprisingly well. The olive oil serves multiple purposes. It cleans the skin, but it also protects it from the sun and keeps it supple. In a climate where the sun can be brutal and the air dry, olive oil is both cosmetic and practical. The scent is pleasant too, a rich, nutty smell that's infinitely preferable to some of the alternatives available in the ancient world. If you're particularly wealthy, or it's a special occasion, you might have a slave to help with the washing process. The slave would apply the oil, do the scraping, and even help with the more complicated aspects of dressing. But for most people, washing and dressing are personal private activities that you handle yourself. As you're finishing your morning ablutions, you hear the sounds of the city waking up outside. Athens is a bustling place with perhaps 40,000 adult male citizens and another 100,000 women, children, resident foreigners, and slaves. The narrow streets are already filling with people heading to work, to the agora for shopping, or to the gymnasium for exercise and socializing. The gymnasium? Now there's where things get interesting from a modern perspective. The word gymnasium comes from the Greek word gymnos, meaning naked. That's because all exercise in ancient Greece was done nude. The Greeks believed that the human body was a beautiful thing that should be displayed and celebrated, not hidden away in shame. So if you're planning to spend time at the gymnasium today, and as a proper Athenian citizen, you probably are, you'll be stripping down to nothing and exercising in the company of other naked men. This might sound awkward to modern sensibilities, but for the ancient Greeks, it was perfectly natural. The gymnasium wasn't just a place for physical exercise. It was a social center where men gathered to discuss philosophy, politics, and the events of the day. Some of the greatest thinkers in history, including Plato and Aristotle, taught in gymnasia. The combination of physical and intellectual exercise was considered ideal for developing a well-rounded citizen. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First, you need to finish getting dressed and have breakfast. The chiton and himatsayan are properly arranged. Your hair is reasonably neat, and you've managed to achieve a level of cleanliness that would satisfy your neighbors and not offend the gods. You're ready to face the day. As you head toward the kitchen, you pass through the courtyard that forms the heart of your home. Most Greek houses are built around a central courtyard with rooms opening onto it. The courtyard provides light air and a space for various household activities. There might be a small garden with herbs and vegetables, a well or cistern for water storage, and perhaps a shrine to your household gods. The kitchen is a simple affair, a room with a hearth for cooking, some storage jars for food, and basic cooking implements. Your wife has prepared a breakfast of barley cakes, honey olives, and watered wine. The barley cakes are flat and dense, somewhat like modern crackers, but more substantial. The honey is a luxury sugar doesn't exist in the ancient world, so honey is the primary sweetener. The olives are a staple providing essential fats and flavor. And the wine, well, the wine is watered down because drinking unmixed wine is considered barbaric and dangerous. You sit down to eat, and your wife joins you. In some Greek households, women eat separately from men, but in others, family meals are shared. The food is simple but satisfying, and the conversation is about the day's plans. You're expected at the agora for some business, and later you'll spend time at the gymnasium. Your wife will manage the household, supervise the slaves if you have any, and perhaps do some weaving or other crafts. The meal is eaten with your hands. Forks don't exist yet, and knives are for cutting, not eating. You use pieces of bread to scoop up other foods, and you drink from a shallow cup called a kylix. The kylix is often decorated with beautiful black figure or red figure paintings depicting scenes from mythology or daily life. Yours shows Athena, the patron goddess of Athens, which is both appropriate and shows your civic pride. As you eat, you can hear the sounds of the city growing louder. Street vendors are calling out their wares, carts are rumbling over cobblestones, and the general hubbub of urban life is beginning. Athens in the 5th century BCE is one of the largest cities in the world, and it sounds like it. After breakfast, you need to make some decisions about your appearance for the day. If you're going to the agora for business, you'll want to look respectable but not ostentatious. If you're planning to attend a symposium, a drinking party that's as much about intellectual discussion as it is about wine, you might want to dress more elaborately. And if you're going to the theater or a religious festival, there are specific expectations about appropriate dress. For a normal day of business and socializing, your current outfit is perfect. The brown himation is respectable, the chiton is clean and well fitted, and your fibulae are nice enough to show that you're a person of some standing without being flashy. You've achieved that perfect balance between looking like you care about your appearance and looking like you're trying too hard. But there's one more aspect of ancient Greek dress that we should discuss: footwear. Greek sandals were marvels of practical design, with leather soles and straps that could be adjusted for comfort and security. Some were simple affairs with a few straps, while others were elaborate creations with multiple straps that wound up the calf like athletic footwear. The quality of your sandals, like everything else about your appearance, sent messages about your social status and personal taste. Your sandals are well made, but not extravagant brown leather with bronze buckles, comfortable enough for walking the sometimes rough streets of Athens, but nice enough to wear in polite company. They're broken and just right, conforming to your feet in a way that makes them almost like a second skin. As you're adjusting your sandals, you realize that you've been thinking about ancient Greek dress in modern terms as individual choices about comfort and style. But for the ancient Greeks, clothing was much more than that. It was a form of communication, a way of showing your place in society, your respect for tradition, and your understanding of proper behavior. The way you wore your himation, for example, could indicate your mood, your intentions, or your relationship to the people around you. Pulling it up over your head might suggest that you were in mourning or deep thought. Draping it loosely might indicate that you were relaxed and social. Wrapping it tightly around your body might suggest that you were cold, modest, or trying to conceal something. Similarly, the condition of your clothing sent messages. A worn himation might suggest either poverty or philosophical indifference to material things. A pristine himation might suggest wealth or vanity. The Greeks were constantly reading these signals, making judgments about each other based on the smallest details of dress and grooming. This constant evaluation might sound exhausting, but it was simply part of life in ancient Athens. In a society where so much depended on reputation and social standing, appearance mattered enormously. A citizen who dressed inappropriately might find himself excluded from important social and political activities. A slave who tried to dress above his station might face severe punishment. And a woman who appeared in public dressed improperly might bring shame on her entire family. The complexity of ancient Greek dress reflects the complexity of ancient Greek society. This wasn't a simple world where everyone dressed the same way and had the same opportunities. It was a sophisticated, stratified society where every aspect of daily life was governed by traditions, expectations, and social hierarchies that had developed over centuries. As you finish your breakfast and prepare to head out into the city, you're participating in rituals that connect you to thousands of years of human civilization. The way you dress, the way you eat, the way you interact with your family and neighbors, all of these things are part of a cultural tradition that stretches back to the dawn of recorded history and forward to the present day. But for now, you're just an Athenian citizen getting ready for another day in the greatest city in the world. The sun is rising, the city is waking up, and there's work to be done. You adjust your himation one last time, make sure your sandals are properly fastened, and step out into the street. The morning air is fresh and cool, carrying the scents of baking bread, olive oil, and the distant smell of the sea. The streets are narrow and winding, paved with stone, and lined with houses that seem to lean in toward each other like old friends sharing secrets. The sky above is that particular shade of blue that seems to exist only in the Mediterranean, clear and bright and full of promise. You're ready for the day dressed in the traditional costume of your ancestors, carrying forward the customs and traditions that make you part of something larger than yourself. You're not just wearing clothes, you're wearing history, culture, and identity. And as you walk through the streets of ancient Athens, you're participating in one of humanity's greatest experiments in civilization, democracy, and the pursuit of knowledge. The day stretches ahead of you full of possibilities and challenges, but for now, you're simply a well-dressed Athenian citizen, ready to take on whatever the day might bring. And that perhaps is enough. The streets of Athens are already bustling by the time you step outside. The narrow pathways between houses are filled with people heading to their daily activities, merchants carrying goods, slaves running errands, citizens like yourself heading to the agora for business or socializing. The cacophony of voices, creaking cartwheels, and the occasional braying of a donkey creates a symphony of urban life that would be familiar to any city dweller in any era. As you walk, you're acutely aware of how you're presenting yourself to the world. In ancient Athens, stepping out of your house is like stepping onto a stage. Everyone you pass is making judgments about you based on your appearance, your posture, the way you carry yourself. And you're doing the same thing to them. The man walking ahead of you, for instance, is clearly a craftsman of some kind. His chiton is shorter than yours, more practical for physical work, and his himation is a simple, undyed wool. His hands are stained with what looks like dye or paint, and his beard is trimmed shorter than the fashion for citizens. He's probably a metic, a resident foreigner who lives in Athens but doesn't have citizenship. Medics can become quite wealthy, but they're always marked by subtle differences in dress and behavior. Behind you, you can hear the clicking of wooden sandals on stone, and you know without looking that it's a group of women. Athenian women don't often venture out alone, and when they do appear in public, they're usually heavily veiled and accompanied by slaves or male relatives. The sound of their footsteps is distinctive, softer than men's sandals, more hesitant, as if they're not entirely comfortable being seen in public. The contrast between men's and women's clothing in ancient Athens is striking. While men's dress is relatively simple chiton himation sandals, women's clothing is an elaborate affair that serves both practical and social functions. A respectable woman's chiton, called a peplus, is longer than a man's, often reaching to the ankles. It's pinned at the shoulders like a man's chiton, but the pins are often more elaborate, sometimes featuring precious stones or intricate metalwork. Over the peplus, women wear a himation that's draped differently from men's. While men might wear their himation loosely, showing off their physique and confidence, women are expected to drape theirs more modestly, often pulling it up over their heads like a veil. The message is clear: men are meant to be seen and admired, while women are meant to be protected and hidden. But it's not just about modesty. The way a woman drapes her himation also communicates her social status, her relationship to the men in her family, and her understanding of proper behavior. A woman who appears in public with her himation draped too loosely might be seen as immodest or even promiscuous. A woman who covers herself too completely might be seen as unfriendly or antisocial. The colors and fabrics of women's clothing also send complex messages. A woman wearing expensive dyes like purple or saffron yellow is showing off her husband's wealth and success. A woman wearing simple, undyed wool is showing her modesty and practicality. But a woman wearing cheap, gaudy colors might be seen as trying to appear wealthier than she is, which could bring shame on her family. As you continue walking toward the agora, you pass a group of young men who are clearly athletes. They're wearing simple, short chitons that show off their muscled legs and arms, and their himations are draped in a way that emphasizes their physical fitness. Their hair is longer than the fashion for older men, and they're clean-shaven, which marks them as youths who haven't yet earned the right to wear a beard. These young men are probably heading to the gymnasium, where they'll spend the morning exercising, competing, and socializing. The gymnasium is one of the most important institutions in ancient Athens, and the way athletes dress is part of a complex system of values and expectations that governs Greek society. The Greeks believed that physical fitness was essential for good citizenship. A man who couldn't fight to defend his city was considered less than a full citizen. But physical fitness wasn't just about military preparedness. It was about moral and intellectual development as well. The Greeks believed that a sound body was necessary for a sound mind, and that physical exercise was as important as intellectual study. This philosophy is reflected in the way athletes dress and present themselves. Their clothing is designed to show off their physical condition, to demonstrate their commitment to the Greek ideal of excellence in all things. But it's also designed to show their youth and potential, the idea that they're still developing, still learning, still becoming the men they're meant to be. As you reach the agora, the great marketplace and civic center of Athens, you're struck by the incredible diversity of people and clothing. The agora is where all of Athenian society comes together. Citizens and medics, free men and slaves, rich and poor, young and old. And each group has its own distinctive way of dressing. The wealthy citizens are easy to spot. Their chitons are made of fine linen, often with subtle patterns woven into the fabric. Their himations are dyed in expensive colors, deep purples, rich crimsons, brilliant yellows. Their fibulae are silver or gold, sometimes decorated with precious stones. Their sandals are made of the finest leather with bronze or silver buckles. They carry themselves with confidence and authority, secure in their position at the top of the social hierarchy. The poorer citizens are dressed more simply, but they still maintain the dignity that comes with citizenship. Their chitons might be made of coarser linen or wool, and their himations might be undyed or dyed with cheaper materials, but their clothing is clean and well-maintained, and they wear it with pride. A poor citizen is still a citizen with all the rights and responsibilities that come with that status. The medics, resident foreigners, are often dressed as well as the citizens, sometimes better. Many medics are successful merchants or craftsmen who've made considerable fortunes in Athens. But there are subtle differences in their clothing that mark them as outsiders. Their chitons might be cut slightly differently, or their himations might be draped in a style that's common in their homeland but unusual in Athens. The slaves are the most diverse group in terms of clothing. Household slaves who work for wealthy families might be dressed quite well in clean chitons and himations that reflect their owner's prosperity. But slaves who work in the mines or on construction projects might be dressed in little more than rags. The key difference is that slaves, regardless of how well they're dressed, are not allowed to wear the distinctive clothing of free men. They can't wear certain colors, can't use certain types of fibula, and can't drape their himations in ways that might suggest citizenship. As you make your way through the agora, you stop at a stall that sells cloth and clothing. The merchant is a medic from Syria, and his stall is filled with fabrics from across the Mediterranean world. There are bolts of linen from Egypt, wool from the mountains of Asia Minor, and silk from the far reaches of the Persian Empire. The colors are incredible deep blues from indigo, brilliant reds from madder root, golden yellows from saffron. The merchant notices your interest in a particularly fine piece of purple dyed wool. Ah, you have excellent taste, he says. This is dyed with genuine murex purple from the shells of the Mediterranean. It would make a magnificent himation for a man of your obvious refinement. You examine the cloth, feeling its texture and admiring the depth of the color. The purple is indeed beautiful, but it's also incredibly expensive. A himation made from this cloth would cost more than most people make in a year. It would be a statement of wealth and power, but it would also be a target for thieves and a source of envy among your neighbors. Perhaps something a bit more practical. You suggest running your hand over a bolt of deep blue wool. The merchant nods understandingly. Of course, of course. A wise man knows that true elegance lies in restraint. This blue is dyed with the finest indigo imported from India. It's subtle, sophisticated, perfect for a citizen who wishes to show his good taste without appearing ostentatious. You negotiate a price for enough cloth to make a new himation, and the merchant promises to have it ready in a few days. As you continue through the agora, you can't help but think about the incredible network of trade and craft that makes such luxury possible. The wool comes from sheep raised in the mountains of Greece or Asia Minor. The dye comes from plants grown in distant lands. The cloth is woven by skilled craftsmen who've spent years learning their trade. And all of this comes together in the markets of Athens, where a citizen can purchase clothing that would have been unimaginable to his ancestors just a few generations ago. The agora isn't just a place for buying and selling, it's also a place for seeing and being seen. As you walk past the stoa-covered walkways, where philosophers and teachers hold their discussions, you notice how each group has its own distinctive style of dress. The philosophers, or at least those who want to be taken seriously as philosophers, tend to dress simply. Their chitons are often made of coarse wool, and their hymations are undyed or dyed in simple colors. This isn't because they can't afford better clothing. Many philosophers come from wealthy families. It's because they want to show that they're more concerned with wisdom than with worldly things. Socrates, the most famous philosopher in Athens, is notorious for wearing the same simple chiton every day, regardless of the weather or the occasion. His students sometimes joke that he's trying to prove that a true philosopher can rise above physical discomfort. But there's a serious point to his austere dress. He's showing that he's not interested in the material things that obsess most people. The politicians and orators, on the other hand, dress to impress. Their chitons are made of the finest linen, and their hymations are dyed in colors that complement their complexions and enhance their presence. They know that in a democracy, appearance matters almost as much as eloquence. A politician who doesn't look the part will have trouble convincing people to vote for him. The merchants and craftsmen have their own style, practical but prosperous. Their clothing is well made, but not flashy, designed to inspire confidence without suggesting that they're charging too much for their goods. A merchant who dresses too plainly might be seen as unsuccessful, while one who dresses too elaborately might be seen as dishonest. As you observe all these different groups, you realize that ancient Greek society is far more complex than it might appear from the outside. The simple chiton and himation that form the basis of Greek dress can be modified in countless ways to communicate different messages about status, profession values, and personality. The length of your chiton, the way you drape your himation, the color and quality of your fabric, the style of your fibula, the condition of your sandals, All of these things are part of a complex language that every Greek citizen learns from childhood. It's a language that allows people to communicate their identity and intentions without saying a word. But it's also a language that can be misunderstood or misinterpreted. A citizen who dresses inappropriately for his station might be seen as pretentious or foolish. A foreigner who doesn't understand the subtle signals of Greek dress might accidentally offend someone or send the wrong message about his intentions. As you continue through the agora, you encounter a group of young men who are clearly foreigners. Their chitons are cut in a style that's common in their homeland, but unusual in Athens. Their himatians are dyed in colors that are fashionable elsewhere, but old-fashioned in Athens. Their hair is styled in a way that marks them as outsiders. These young men are probably students who've come to Athens to study philosophy or rhetoric. Athens is famous throughout the Greek world for its schools and teachers, and students come from all over the Mediterranean to learn from the best minds of the age, but their foreign appearance makes them targets for mockery and suspicion. You watch as a group of Athenian youths approaches the foreign students. The Athenians are dressed in the latest fashion with their chitons cut short to show off their legs and their himatians draped in the casual style that's popular among the young. They're clearly looking for trouble. "Look at these barbarians," one of the Athenians says loudly. They dress like their grandmothers and wonder why people laugh at them. The foreign students try to ignore the taunts, but their embarrassment is obvious. They're probably wealthy young men from good families, but in Athens, their foreign appearance makes them targets for abuse. It's a reminder that in ancient Greece, as in every society, appearance can be a source of power or vulnerability. The incident passes without violence, but it illustrates an important point about dress in ancient Athens. Clothing isn't just about personal preference or comfort, it's about belonging, about showing that you understand and accept the values of your society. People who dress differently, whether by choice or necessity, are marked as outsiders and treated accordingly. As you make your way toward the gymnasium, you pass a group of women who are shopping for household items. They're accompanied by male relatives and slaves, and they're dressed in the modest covering style that's expected of respectable women. But even within the constraints of female dress, there are subtle variations that communicate different messages. The older women are dressed more conservatively, with their himatians pulled up over their heads and their chitons reaching to their ankles. The younger women are dressed more fashionably, with their himatians draped to show a bit more of their figures and their chitons decorated with embroidered borders. The differences are subtle, but they're important. They show that even in a society that strictly controls women's appearance, there's still room for individual expression and style. The women's jewelry is also part of their communication system. Gold earrings, silver bracelets, and bronze pins all send messages about their family's wealth and status, but they also send messages about the women themselves, their taste, their personality, their understanding of what's appropriate for their age and station. As you near the gymnasium, you can hear the sounds of athletic activity, the thud of wrestlers hitting the ground, the crack of discus throwers, the shouts of trainers and competitors. The gymnasium is one of the most important institutions in Athens, and it's where the Greek ideal of physical and intellectual excellence is most clearly expressed. The athletes at the gymnasium are dressed, or rather undressed, in a way that would shock most modern people. Ancient Greek athletes compete nude, believing that the human body is beautiful and should be displayed without shame. But even in their nudity, there are ways to communicate status and identity. The oil that athletes rub on their bodies before exercise isn't just practical, it's also a form of display. Expensive oils, scented with rare perfumes, show wealth and refinement. The strigils that athletes use to scrape off oil and sweat after exercise are often decorated with intricate patterns or made of precious metals. Even the way an athlete carries himself, the way he interacts with his trainers and fellow competitors communicates his social status and personal values. The gymnasium is also a place where the distinction between citizen and non-citizen is most clearly expressed. Only free men are allowed to exercise in the gymnasium, and only citizens are allowed to participate in the most prestigious competitions. Slaves and medics can watch, but they can't compete. It's a physical expression of the social hierarchy that governs all of Athenian life. As you enter the gymnasium, you're greeted by friends and acquaintances. The conversation is about politics, philosophy, and the latest gossip from the agora. But beneath the surface, there's a constant evaluation of everyone's appearance and behavior, who's looking fit and healthy, who's showing signs of age or poor condition, who's dressed appropriately for their station, and who's trying to appear more important than they are. The gymnasium is where the Greek ideal of kolokagathia, the unity of physical and moral excellence, is most clearly expressed. The men who exercise here aren't just building their bodies, they're building their characters, their citizenship, their place in society. And the way they dress both before and after exercise is part of that larger project of self-improvement and social participation. As you prepare to strip down for exercise, you realize that you're about to participate in one of the most distinctive aspects of ancient Greek culture. The nudity of the gymnasium isn't just about physical exercise. It's about honesty, equality, and the celebration of human potential. When everyone is naked, differences in clothing and jewelry become irrelevant. What matters is character skill and the pursuit of excellence. But even as you remove your chiton and himation, you're aware that the Greek ideal of physical beauty is very specific. The gymnasium celebrates a particular type of male body, young, muscular, without excess fat or obvious signs of age. Men who don't meet this ideal may feel self-conscious or excluded, despite the gymnasium's supposed emphasis on equality. The afternoon stretches ahead of you, filled with exercise conversation and the complex social interactions that define life in ancient Athens. You've navigated the morning's challenges of dressing appropriately, presenting yourself well in the agora, and maintaining your status as a respectable citizen. Now, you're ready to participate in the physical side of Greek life that makes the gymnasium such a unique institution. As you place your folded chiton and himation in a small alcove along with your sandals and fibulae, you're participating in a ritual that's both deeply personal and intensely social. The afternoon sun beats down on the gymnasium's exercise ground as you finish your workout. Your body glistens with a mixture of sweat and the olive oil you rubbed on before exercising a practice that's both practical and symbolic. The oil helps protect your skin from the sun and makes your muscles more supple, but it also marks you as a free citizen who has the leisure time for athletic pursuits. Around you, other men are going through their own post-exercise routines. Some are still wrestling their bodies intertwined in holds that require years of practice to master. Others are throwing the discus or javelin with the casual precision of athletes who've been training since childhood. The sound of bodies hitting the ground, the grunt of exertion, and the calls of trainers create a symphony of physical effort that's uniquely Greek, but the real revelation of ancient Greek life is about to begin. The bath. If you thought that getting clean in ancient Athens was simply a matter of jumping in a river, you're about to discover that Greek bathing was both an art form and a social institution, as complex as anything in their civilization. The gymnasium's bathing facilities are surprisingly sophisticated. There are rooms with large basins for communal washing, smaller alcoves for private cleaning, and an ingenious system of channels and drains that carry away dirty water. The Greeks might not have had modern plumbing, but they understood the importance of hygiene in ways that would put later civilizations to shame. You begin the bathing process the same way you began your morning washing, but more thoroughly. First, more olive oil is rubbed all over your body, not just a light coating, but a generous application that turns your skin into a gleaming bronze surface. This isn't vanity, it's technology. The oil will trap the sweat dust and dead skin that has accumulated during your workout, making it easier to remove. A slave approaches with a basin of water and a strigil, that curved bronze tool that looks like a combination of a spatula and a scraper. The strigil is one of the most ingenious inventions of the ancient world, designed specifically for the Greek method of cleaning. The slave, trained in the proper technique, begins to scrape the oil from your body in long, smooth strokes. The sensation is strange but satisfying. The strigil glides across your skin, taking with it not just the oil, but layers of grime and dead skin you didn't even know were there. It's like being peeled, revealing fresh skin underneath. The pressure is firm but not painful, and there's something almost meditative about the rhythmic scraping motion. But this isn't just about getting clean, it's about transformation. As the slave works, you feel yourself changing from a sweaty, dusty athlete back into a civilized citizen. The oil and grime that come off represent not just physical dirt, but the temporary wildness of athletic competition. The bath is a return to social order, to the refined world of the polis. The slave rinses you with warm water, a luxury that's reserved for the gymnasium and the homes of the wealthy. Heating water requires fuel and time, both expensive commodities. The water has been warmed in large bronze cauldrons over charcoal fires, and it feels like liquid comfort against your skin. Next comes something that would horrify modern dermatologists, but was considered essential by the ancient Greeks: a thorough rubbing with fine sand. The sand, imported from beaches, known for their particular texture, acts as an exfoliant that removes any remaining dead skin and gives your skin a polished, almost glowing appearance. It's abrasive enough to be effective, but fine enough not to cause damage. The slave works methodically, starting with your feet and moving upward. The sand is mixed with more olive oil to create a paste that can be spread evenly. As it's rubbed into your skin, you can feel it polishing away roughness and calluses. Your hands, which show the wear of daily work, become smooth and soft. Your feet, toughened by walking on stone streets and rough terrain, regain their sensitivity. After the sand treatment, you're rinsed again, this time with cooler water that closes your pores and tightens your skin. The contrast between the warm and cool water is invigorating, like a gentle shock that brings your body fully awake. You feel cleaner than you've ever felt in your life, as if you've been reborn. But the bathing process isn't over. Now comes the part that separates the Greeks from other ancient peoples: the perfuming. A selection of scented oils is brought out, each with its own properties and associations. There's rose oil from the islands, which is supposed to promote feelings of love and harmony. There's mint oil, which cools the skin and sharpens the mind. There's myrrh, expensive and exotic, which connects you to the gods and marks you as a person of means. You choose a blend of rose and mint, and the slave applies it with the same care that was used for the cleaning process. The oil is warmed between the slave's hands before being applied, and it's massaged into your skin with slow, deliberate movements. This isn't just about scent. It's about conditioning the skin, protecting it from the elements, and creating an aura of civilization and refinement. The perfuming process is accompanied by conversation with other bathers. This is where much of Athens' real business gets done, not in the formal setting of the agora or the assembly, but in the relaxed atmosphere of the baths. Men discuss politics, philosophy, business deals, and social gossip while being ministered to by their slaves. You learn that there's been trouble in the silver mines at Laurium, which could affect the city's finances. Someone mentions that a new philosopher has arrived from Ionia, teaching strange ideas about the nature of reality. Another man complains about his son, who's spending too much time reading poetry and not enough time learning practical skills. The conversation flows as smoothly as the oil being applied to your skin. There's something about the vulnerability of being naked and being cared for that breaks down social barriers and encourages honesty. Men who might be rivals in business or politics become friends in the baths, bonded by the shared experience of cleansing and renewal. As your massage continues, you notice the incredible diversity of the men around you. There's an elderly philosopher whose body shows the wear of age, but whose mind is still sharp as a blade. There's a young athlete whose muscles seem carved from marble, but who's eager to learn from his elders. There's a successful merchant whose soft hands show that he's moved beyond physical labor, but who still respects the traditions of the gymnasium. Each man's body tells a story. Scars from military service, calluses from particular crafts, the muscle development that comes from specific types of work or exercise. The baths strip away the external markers of status, the expensive clothing, the elaborate hairstyles, the jewelry that marks wealth and position. Here you're judged by your character, your conversation, and your respect for the traditions that bind the community together. The perfuming process concludes with a final application of plain olive oil, the foundation of all Greek cosmetics. This oil is different from what was used for cleaning. It's lighter, more refined, designed to sink into the skin rather than sit on top of it. It leaves your skin feeling supple and protected, ready to face the rest of the day. But the social aspect of bathing extends beyond just conversation. There are games played in the water competitions to see who can hold their breath longest or swim the most laps. There are philosophical discussions that can last for hours, with participants getting in and out of the water as they become heated by argument or cooled by reason. The baths are also where young men learn from their elders about the proper way to conduct themselves in society. A teenage athlete might find himself in conversation with a distinguished statesman who shares wisdom about everything from military tactics to the proper way to choose a wife. These informal mentoring relationships are how Greek culture perpetuates itself, passing down values and knowledge from generation to generation. As afternoon turns to evening, the character of the baths changes. The intense heat of midday gives way to a more comfortable warmth, and the mood becomes more relaxed and social. Wine is sometimes brought in mixed with water, of course, because the Greeks believe that unmixed wine is barbaric and dangerous. The combination of warm water, good wine, and stimulating conversation creates an atmosphere of civilized pleasure that exemplifies the Greek ideal of moderation in all things. You notice that the slaves attending the bathers are skilled professionals who take pride in their work. They know exactly how much pressure to apply with the strigil, which oils work best for different skin types, and how to maintain the perfect water temperature. Some of these slaves are quite valuable, more expensive than a house or a small farm. Their skills are passed down through generations, and the best of them are treated with a respect that might surprise modern observers. The relationship between master and slave in the baths is complex and nuanced. While the slave is clearly in a subordinate position, there's also an intimacy and trust involved in the bathing process that creates a different kind of bond. A man might trust his bathing slave with secrets he wouldn't share with his own family, knowing that the slave's position depends on discretion and loyalty. As you prepare to leave the baths, you go through one final ritual, the application of a light dusting of powder made from ground marble or chalk. This serves both practical and aesthetic purposes. It absorbs any excess oil, prevents chafing from clothing, and gives your skin a smooth, polished appearance that catches the light in an attractive way. The powder application is almost ceremonial in its precision. The slave uses a soft brush made from animal hair to dust you from head to toe, paying particular attention to areas where clothing might rub or where you might sweat during the rest of the day. The powder has a subtle fragrance, usually something light and fresh, like lemon or pine, that provides a final layer of civilized scent. As you're being powdered, you catch sight of yourself in one of the polished bronze mirrors that line the walls of the bathing area. The transformation is remarkable. You entered the baths as a sweaty, dusty athlete, and you're leaving as a polished citizen who looks like he could attend a symposium or meet with important politicians without embarrassment. Your skin has a healthy glow that comes from the combination of exercise, thorough cleaning, and skilled cosmetic application. Your body feels lighter, cleaner, and more sensitive than when you arrived. Even your mood has improved. There's something about the bathing process that's not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually cleansing. The Greeks understood something that many later civilizations forgot, that cleanliness isn't just about health, it's about dignity, social harmony, and spiritual well-being. A man who takes care of his body is showing respect for himself, for his community, and for the gods who created him. Neglecting physical cleanliness is seen as a sign of moral decay, while maintaining proper hygiene is a civic virtue. As you retrieve your clothing from the alcove where you left it, you realize that the simple act of getting dressed has been transformed by the bathing process. The linen chiton feels softer against your clean skin. The wool himation seems lighter and more comfortable. Even your sandals seem to fit better on your freshly cleaned and powdered feet. But there's more to this transformation than just physical comfort. The bathing process has prepared you to re-enter society as a fully civilized being. You've shed not just dirt and sweat, but also the temporary wildness that comes from physical competition. You've been reminded of your place in the social hierarchy and your connections to the community around you. The sun is beginning to set as you emerge from the gymnasium, and the quality of light has changed from the harsh brightness of midday to the golden glow of evening. The streets are still busy, but the pace has slowed. People are making their way home for the evening meal or gathering in the agora for the social activities that mark the end of the working day. You feel a sense of satisfaction that goes beyond the physical pleasure of being clean. You've participated in one of the most distinctive rituals of Greek civilization, one that sets Athens apart from the barbarian cities where men live like animals, never properly cleaning themselves or caring for their appearance. You've demonstrated your membership in a community that values not just strength and intelligence, but also beauty, refinement, and the proper care of the human body. The evening stretches ahead of you full of possibilities. You might attend a symposium where wine, conversation, and entertainment will extend late into the night. You might go home for a quiet dinner with your family, sharing the day's experiences and planning for tomorrow. Or you might simply wander through the agora, enjoying the cool evening air and the sense of well-being that comes from a day properly lived. Whatever you choose to do, you'll do it as a clean, properly groomed citizen of the greatest city in the world. And tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. Exercise, bathing, social interaction, and the constant pursuit of excellence that defines Greek life. It's a routine that connects you to your ancestors and to the future, a daily affirmation of the values that make civilization possible. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting the Athenian sky in shades of gold and crimson, you find yourself faced with one of the day's final challenges, preparing for the evening's social obligations. In ancient Athens, the transition from day to night requires not just a change of activities, but a subtle transformation of appearance that signals your readiness for more refined pursuits. You're heading home to change before attending a symposium, one of those legendary Greek drinking parties that are as much about intellectual discourse as they are about wine. But the idea that you can simply throw on any old himation and show up would mark you as either very young, very poor, or very foreign. The evening demands a different kind of dress, one that shows respect for your hosts and understanding of the social rituals that govern Athenian nightlife. The walk home through the narrow streets gives you time to think about the complex relationship between clothing and identity in ancient Greece. Every fabric choice, every color combination, every way of draping your himation sends messages to everyone who sees you. It's a language as complex as Greek itself and just as essential for anyone who wants to navigate Athenian society successfully. Your house, when you reach it, feels cool and welcoming after the heat of the day. The courtyard fountain provides a gentle background sound, and the evening breeze carries the scent of jasmine and cooking food from neighboring houses. Your wife greets you with a mixture of affection and practical concern. She can tell from your appearance that you've spent the day at the gymnasium, and she's already prepared the clothes you'll need for the evening's activities. The evening chitons she's laid out is different from the one you wore during the day. It's made of finer linen, with a subtle pattern woven into the fabric that's only visible when the light catches it just right. The linen itself is softer, more supple, the kind that can only be produced by the most skilled weavers. Running your hands over it, you can feel the difference. This is cloth that's been made for pleasure as much as practicality. The himation she's chosen is also special, a deep blue wool that's been dyed with the finest indigo. It's not as ostentatious as purple, but it's far more sophisticated than the brown wool you wore to the agora. The blue is rich, and even without the streaks or patches that mark cheaper dyed cloth. The wool itself is incredibly fine, probably from sheep raised in the mountains of Asia Minor, where the climate and grazing produce fleece of exceptional quality. But it's not just the quality of the fabric that matters, it's how you wear it. The evening himation must be draped differently from the daytime version. While the day calls for a practical arrangement that allows freedom of movement, the evening demands a more formal style that emphasizes dignity and sophistication. Your wife helps you with the draping, her skilled hands arranging the fabric in elegant folds that seem effortless but actually require considerable practice to achieve. The himation is pinned at the right shoulder with a silver fibula decorated with a tiny owl, the symbol of Athena and by extension of Athens itself. The pin is beautiful but also functional, holding the heavy wool in place without creating unsightly bunching or pulling. The way the himation falls is crucial. Too loose and you'll look slovenly, or worse, like you're trying to show off your body in an inappropriate setting. Too tight and you'll look uncomfortable or suggest that you're not used to wearing good clothes. The goal is to achieve an appearance of effortless elegance, as if looking sophisticated is simply your natural state. As your wife adjusts the drape of your himation, she explains the subtle signals you'll be sending with your appearance tonight. The blue color suggests wisdom and stability, appropriate for a man who expects to participate in serious philosophical discussions. The quality of the fabric shows that you're prosperous enough to afford the best, but not so ostentatious that you're showing off. The owl fibula marks you as a loyal Athenian who honors the city's patron goddess. The chiton beneath the himation is equally important. Its length must be precise. Too short suggests that you're either a young athlete or someone who doesn't understand proper dress codes. Too long suggests that you're either elderly or trying to appear more important than you are. The correct length, which your wife has achieved through careful adjustment, hits just at the knee, suggesting maturity, respectability, and good judgment. The evening chiton is also distinguished by its sleeves. While the daytime version might be sleeveless or have very short sleeves for practicality, the evening chiton has longer sleeves that can be adjusted depending on the social situation. Tonight, they're arranged to show just a glimpse of the fine linen at the wrists, enough to demonstrate the quality of the garment without appearing flashy. Your footwear for the evening is also different. Instead of the practical sandals you wore during the day, you're wearing a more elaborate pair made of soft leather dyed to match your himation. The straps are decorated with small bronze medallions, and the soles are thicker and more cushioned. These sandals are designed for walking on smooth floors and comfortable seating rather than rough streets and gymnasium grounds. The preparation of evening dress in ancient Athens is a ritual that involves the entire household. Your wife oversees the process, but slaves help with the actual dressing. One slave helps you wash and reapply perfumed oils. Another tends to your hair, which must be combed and arranged in a style appropriate for the evening's activities. A third slave polishes your jewelry and ensures that your fibulae are clean and bright. The hair arrangement is particularly important. The casual style that's appropriate for the gymnasium won't do for a symposium. Your hair must be combed smooth and held in place with a small amount of perfumed oil. The style should suggest maturity and sophistication without being overly elaborate. Too much attention to hairstyling is considered effeminate and inappropriate for a serious citizen. Jewelry for men in ancient Athens is subtle but significant. Besides the fibulae that hold your chiton and himation in place, you might wear a signet ring that bears your family's seal. The ring serves practical purposes. It can be used to authenticate documents or mark property, but it also signals your status and lineage. The metal and design of the ring communicate information about your wealth, taste, and family history. Tonight, you're wearing a gold ring with an engraved design showing Hermes, the messenger god. The choice is deliberate. Hermes is associated with eloquence, wit, and the kind of intellectual agility that's valued at symposiums. The ring is beautiful, but not ostentatious, suggesting confidence without arrogance. As you complete your evening preparations, you're reminded of how different ancient Greek attitudes toward male appearance were from those of later eras. In many periods of history, too much attention to clothing and grooming would be seen as unmanly or frivolous. But the Greeks believed that a properly dressed man was demonstrating respect for himself, his community, and the gods. Neglecting your appearance was seen as a form of disrespect that could have serious social consequences. The complexity of ancient Greek dress reflects the complexity of ancient Greek society. This isn't a simple world where everyone dresses the same way and follows identical customs. It's a sophisticated, stratified society where clothing serves as a form of communication, a way of signaling identity, status, intentions, and values. The fabrics themselves tell stories about the wider Greek world. The linen for your chiton might have come from Egypt, where the Nile Delta produces flax of exceptional quality. The wool for your himation might have been woven on the island of Miletos, famous for its textile production. The dyes might have come from Phoenician traders who travel throughout the Mediterranean, collecting rare and valuable coloring materials. This international trade in textiles reflects the interconnected nature of the ancient world. A well-dressed Athenian citizen is wearing the products of dozens of different communities, each contributing their specialized knowledge and materials to create clothing that would have been impossible to produce in isolation. The evening himation you're wearing represents months of work by multiple craftspeople. The sheep that provided the wool were raised by shepherds who spent years learning their trade. The wool was processed by workers who cleaned, carded, and spun it into thread. The thread was woven into cloth by skilled weavers who spent decades perfecting their techniques. The cloth was dyed by specialists who knew the secrets of extracting color from plants and minerals. Finally, the finished fabric was cut and sewn by tailors who understood how to create garments that would drape properly on the human body. Each step in this process required specialized knowledge that was passed down through generations of craftspeople. The skills needed to produce fine textiles weren't written down in books, they were learned through years of apprenticeship and practice. This makes every piece of high-quality clothing a repository of cultural knowledge, a physical embodiment of the collective wisdom of the community. As you prepare to leave for the symposium, you take one final look at yourself in the polished bronze mirror. The reflection shows a figure that embodies the Greek ideal of the educated citizen. Your clothing is elegant but not excessive. Your grooming is careful but not obsessive. And your overall appearance suggests someone who takes his responsibilities seriously while still knowing how to enjoy life's pleasures. The transformation from day wear to evening dress has involved more than just changing clothes. It's required a shift in mindset, a preparation for different kinds of social interaction. The practical, active citizen of the day has become the cultured, reflective citizen of the evening. Your clothing both reflects and reinforces this transformation, helping you step into the role that the social situation demands. The symposium you're attending tonight will bring together some of the most interesting minds in Athens. There will be politicians discussing the latest developments in the ongoing conflicts with Sparta. There will be philosophers debating the nature of justice and the good life. There will be poets sharing new works and merchants telling stories of their travels to distant lands. Your appearance will be part of your contribution to the evening. By dressing appropriately, you're showing respect for your fellow guests and for the traditions that make such gatherings possible. You're also demonstrating your understanding of the values that define Athenian civilization, the belief that beauty, wisdom, and social harmony are all interconnected. The streets of Athens look different in the evening light. The harsh shadows of midday have given way to a softer illumination that makes the white marble buildings glow like lamps. The air is cooler and more comfortable, carrying the sounds of evening activities, the clink of cups from taverns, the music of street performers, the conversations of people making their way to various social gatherings. Other well-dressed citizens are heading to their own evening appointments. You can tell from their clothing what kinds of activities they're planning. The man in the purple himation is probably attending a formal dinner at someone's house. The purple marks him as either very wealthy or the guest of honor. The group of younger men in matching blue himatians are probably heading to the same symposium. Their coordinated appearance suggests they're students of the same philosopher or members of the same social club. The women you occasionally glimpse are dressed even more elaborately than the men. Their evening peplos are made of the finest fabrics, often with gold thread woven into intricate patterns. Their himatians are draped to create graceful silhouettes while still maintaining the modesty that's expected of respectable women. Their jewelry is more elaborate than what men wear: gold necklaces, silver bracelets, and elaborate fibulae that serve as much for decoration as for function. But you notice that the women's movements are more constrained than the men's. Their clothing, while beautiful, is designed to limit their mobility and keep them within appropriate social boundaries. A woman's evening dress is a constant reminder of her place in society, honored and protected, but also controlled and limited. As you approach the house where the symposium is being held, you can already hear the sounds of conversation and laughter from within. The host has hung lamps around the entrance, and the warm light spills out into the street, creating an inviting atmosphere. Other guests are arriving, and you can see from their clothing that this will be a gathering of Athens' intellectual and social elite. The doorkeeper who greets you is a well-trained slave who knows how to recognize the status of arriving guests. He takes one look at your fine blue himation and silver fibula and knows immediately that you're someone to be treated with respect. He helps you remove your himation and arrange it on a peg where it won't be wrinkled or damaged during the evening. Underneath, your evening chiton looks perfect. The fine linen drapes elegantly, and the subtle pattern woven into the fabric is just visible in the lamplight. Your appearance announces that you're a citizen of substance and refinement, someone who can contribute meaningfully to the evening's discussions. The symposium room is arranged with couches arranged in a square, each designed to accommodate two guests who will recline while eating, drinking, and talking. The couches are covered with fine fabrics and cushions, and small tables beside each couch hold cups, food, and anything else the guests might need during the evening. As you take your place on one of the couches, you're conscious of how your clothing looks in this setting. The blue of your himation, which you've draped over your legs for warmth and modesty, complements the reds and golds of the room's decorations. Your silver fibula catches the light from the oil lamps, and the fine texture of your linen chiton adds to the overall atmosphere of refined luxury. The other guests are equally well dressed, each having made careful choices about how to present themselves for the evening. The clothing creates an atmosphere of civilized pleasure, suggesting that this gathering is about more than just eating and drinking. It's about the pursuit of beauty, wisdom, and social harmony that defines the best of Greek civilization. As the evening progresses and the wine begins to flow, the clothing becomes both more and less important. More important because the relaxed atmosphere allows people to appreciate the subtle details of fabric and draping that might be missed in more formal settings. Less important because the focus shifts from appearance to conversation, from how people look to what they have to say. But even as the evening becomes more relaxed, the clothing continues to serve its function as a marker of identity and status. The quality of your himation marks you as someone whose opinions are worth hearing. The appropriateness of your dress shows that you understand and respect the social conventions that make the symposium possible. Your attention to grooming and appearance demonstrates the self-respect that's essential for meaningful participation in intellectual discourse. The night stretches ahead, full of wine conversation and the intellectual pleasures that make Athens the envy of the Greek world. And through it all, your clothing will continue to play its subtle but important role, helping to create the atmosphere of civilized refinement that makes such gatherings not just possible, but transcendent. The symposium has wound down as the oil lamps burn low and the wine has done its work of loosening tongues and forging friendships. The conversations that began with formal philosophical discussions have evolved into more personal exchanges, the kind of late-night talks that cement social bonds and create the networks of loyalty and obligation that hold Athenian society together. As you make your way home through the nearly empty streets, your evening himation draped carefully around your shoulders against the cool night air, you can feel the satisfying exhaustion that comes from a day well lived. Your body carries the pleasant ache of exercise from the gymnasium, the clean feeling of thorough bathing, and the mental stimulation of hours of intelligent conversation. The streets of Athens at night are a different world from the bustling daylight city. The narrow pathways between houses are lit only by the occasional torch or lamp, creating pools of warm light separated by deep shadows. The sounds are different too. The distant laughter from late-night gatherings, the soft footsteps of slaves carrying messages or running errands, the occasional bark of a dog or cry of a nightbird. Your house, when you reach it, is mostly dark, except for a single lamp left burning in the courtyard. Your wife has long since retired, and the slaves have completed their evening duties and withdrawn to their quarters. The house feels peaceful and welcoming, a sanctuary from the complexities of public life. But before you can rest, there's the matter of properly caring for your evening clothes. The fine blue himation and delicate linen chiton represent a significant investment, and they require careful handling if they're to maintain their appearance and last for years of use. The process of undressing is as ritualized as the morning process of getting dressed, each step designed to preserve the garments and prepare them for future wear. You begin with the himation, carefully unpinning the silver fibula and folding the wool fabric along the lines established by the day's wear. The himation is heavy and substantial, but it must be folded in a specific way to prevent permanent creases from forming. Your wife has trained you in the proper technique. Each fold must be smooth and even, and the fabric must be arranged so that its weight is distributed evenly. The folded himation goes into a wooden chest that's been lined with cedar to repel insects and absorb moisture. Cedar is expensive, but it's essential for protecting fine woolens from the moths and other pests that can destroy months of work in a single night. The chest itself is a work of art with bronze hinges and a lock that keeps the contents secure from both thieves and curious household members. The evening chiton requires different care. The fine linen is more delicate than wool, but it's also more forgiving of frequent washing. Unlike the himation, which might be cleaned only a few times a year, the chiton needs regular attention to maintain its crisp appearance and fresh scent. You remove the chiton carefully, taking care not to stress the seams or stretch the fabric. The garment is constructed without buttons or zippers, concepts that won't be invented for centuries. So everything depends on the skillful arrangement of pins and ties. Each fastening point must be undone in the correct order to avoid damaging the delicate linen. The chiton, once removed, is shaken out and examined for stains or damage. A small spot of wine from the symposium is quickly treated with a mixture of white wine and salt, a technique that Greek housekeepers have perfected over generations. The salt absorbs the stain while the wine prevents it from setting permanently in the fabric. After the spot treatment, the chiton is hung on a wooden frame designed specifically for this purpose. The frame allows air to circulate around the garment, preventing the musty odors that can develop when clothes are stored improperly. The linen is positioned so that wrinkles can fall out naturally, reducing the need for pressing or ironing. The process of caring for your clothes is interrupted by the need to attend to your own body. The perfumed oils and powders applied after your bath at the gymnasium have done their work throughout the day, but they now need to be refreshed before sleep. Ancient Greeks believed that the night was when the body did its most important work of renewal and repair, and proper preparation was essential for restful sleep. You make your way to the washing area of your home, where water has been left in ceramic basins for evening ablutions. The water is cool. Heating water for evening washing is a luxury reserved for special occasions, but the coolness is refreshing after the warmth of the symposium and the walk home. You begin by washing your hands and face using a soft cloth to remove the day's accumulation of dust and oils. The water feels clean and fresh, and you can smell the faint scent of herbs that your wife has added to make the washing more pleasant. Roman writers would later mock the Greeks for their obsession with cleanliness, but for you, the evening wash is both a practical necessity and a spiritual preparation for sleep. Next comes the removal of the day's perfumed oils. While these scents were appropriate for social activities, sleeping with heavy fragrances can lead to restless nights and strange dreams. You use a strigil, a smaller, more delicate version of the tool used at the gymnasium, to gently scrape away the oils and replace them with lighter, sleep-friendly alternatives. The evening oils are different from those used during the day. Instead of the energizing scents of mint and rose, you apply oils scented with lavender and chamomile herbs that the Greeks believe promote restful sleep and pleasant dreams. The oils are mixed with a small amount of ground pearl, which gives the skin a subtle luminescence in the lamplight. Your hair, which was carefully arranged for the evening's activities, is now loosened and combed out. The perfumed oil that held it in place is removed and replaced with a lighter treatment that will prevent tangles without creating the heavy, greasy feeling that can make sleep uncomfortable. Greek men take pride in their hair, and proper nighttime care is essential for maintaining its health and appearance. The evening grooming routine also includes attention to details that might be overlooked during the day. Fingernails are cleaned and trimmed using small bronze implements. Teeth are cleaned using frayed twigs and a mixture of mint and honey that freshens the breath and prevents decay. The Greeks understand the connection between oral health and overall well-being, even if they don't have access to modern dental care. As you complete your evening preparations, you can feel your body beginning to relax and prepare for sleep. The cool night air carries the scent of jasmine from the courtyard garden, and the distant sounds of the city settling down for the night create a peaceful background that encourages rest. But the preparation for sleep involves more than just personal hygiene. It also requires attention to the sleeping environment itself. The Greek bed or klein might look simple, but it's actually a sophisticated piece of furniture designed to provide comfort and support throughout the night. Your bed frame is made of oak, chosen for its strength and durability. The joints are fitted together with wooden pegs and leather bindings, no nails or metal fasteners that might rust or break over time. The frame is designed to be both stable and flexible, able to support weight without creaking or shifting during the night. The sleeping surface consists of leather straps stretched across the frame in a complex pattern that provides support while allowing for some give and flexibility. The straps are made from the finest leather treated with oils to keep them supple and prevent cracking. They're tensioned carefully to provide the right balance of firmness and comfort. On top of the leather straps lies a mattress made of wool stuffed into a linen casing. The wool comes from sheep raised specifically for bedding animals whose fleece is particularly soft and resilient. The wool is cleaned, carded, and arranged in layers that provide both cushioning and insulation. The linen casing is woven from the finest flax, soft enough to be comfortable against the skin, but strong enough to contain the wool filling. The mattress is covered with sheets made of the same fine linen as your evening chiton, though slightly thicker for durability. These sheets are changed regularly, a luxury that sets Greek households apart from those of less civilized peoples. The linen is woven in a pattern that's both beautiful and functional, with subtle textures that feel pleasant against the skin while allowing air to circulate and prevent overheating. Your pillow is a marvel of ancient engineering, though it would seem small and firm by modern standards. It's essentially a rectangular cushion stuffed with the softest down from waterfowl encased in silk that's been imported at considerable expense from the far reaches of the Persian Empire. The silk is cool and smooth against your skin, and it's dyed a soft blue that complements the other furnishings in your sleeping chamber. But the Greeks have discovered something that many later civilizations would forget, that comfort in sleep comes not just from soft materials, but from proper support and temperature regulation. The combination of leather straps, wool mattress, linen sheets, and down pillow creates a sleeping surface that's both comfortable and healthy, providing the kind of rest that allows for physical recovery and mental renewal. As you settle into bed, you're wearing a simple sleeping tunic made of the softest linen available. This garment is cut loosely to allow for freedom of movement during sleep, but it's long enough to provide warmth and modesty. The linen is so fine that it feels almost like silk, and it's been washed so many times that it has the softness that only comes from years of careful use. The sleeping tunic serves multiple purposes beyond just comfort. It protects your skin from the rougher textures of the bedding, prevents oils from your body from staining the expensive linens, and provides a barrier that helps maintain proper body temperature throughout the night. The Greeks understand that sleep is most restful when the body neither overheats nor becomes chilled. The room itself has been prepared for optimal sleeping conditions. The windows are covered with wooden shutters that block out light while still allowing for air circulation. A small brazier provides just enough warmth to take the chill off the night air without creating the stuffiness that can lead to restless sleep. The walls are painted in soft, neutral colors that don't stimulate the mind or create visual distractions. Near your bed, a small table holds the items you might need during the night. There's a cup of watered wine. The Greeks believe that a small amount of wine before sleep aids digestion and promotes pleasant dreams. There's also a small oil lamp with a long wick that can provide light if you need to get up during the night. And there's a bronze mirror because even in the privacy of your sleeping chamber, appearance matters to a Greek citizen. As you lie in bed waiting for sleep to come, you can feel the day's experiences settling into your mind like sediment in still water. The conversations from the symposium replay themselves, the philosophical arguments working themselves through your consciousness as your rational mind gives way to the more mysterious processes of dreams. The Greeks have complex theories about sleep and dreams that influence how they prepare for rest. They believe that during sleep, the soul travels to other realms where it can receive messages from the gods, commune with the spirits of the dead, or glimpse possible futures. This makes the sleeping environment not just a place of physical rest, but a sacred space where divine communication can occur. To encourage positive dreams and divine favor, you've placed a small charm under your pillow, a piece of amber carved with the image of Morpheus, the god of dreams. The amber is warm to the touch and releases a subtle fragrance that's supposed to attract benevolent spirits while repelling nightmares and evil influences. Your sleeping chamber also contains other items designed to promote restful sleep and pleasant dreams. There's a small shrine to Hypnos, the god of sleep, where you've left offerings of honey and milk. There's a sprig of lavender from your garden believed to calm the mind and encourage deep sleep. And there's a piece of hematite, a dark stone that's supposed to prevent nightmares and promote dreams of wisdom and guidance. The bedtime routine includes prayers to the appropriate gods, asking for protection during the vulnerable hours of sleep. You pray to Hypnos for deep, restful sleep. You pray to Morpheus for dreams that will bring insight and wisdom. You pray to your household gods for protection of your family and property, while you're unable to guard them yourself. These prayers aren't just religious obligations, they're part of the psychological preparation for sleep that helps your mind transition from the active concerns of the day to the passive receptivity of night. The act of placing your trust in divine protection allows you to release the worries and anxieties that might otherwise keep you awake. As sleep begins to overtake you, you're conscious of the incredible comfort and luxury of your sleeping arrangements. The linen sheets feel cool and smooth against your skin. The wool mattress supports your body without creating pressure points. The down pillow cradles your head at just the right angle. You're warmer and more comfortable than the vast majority of human beings throughout history. But this comfort isn't just about physical pleasure, it's about the dignity and self-respect that come from taking proper care of yourself. A Greek citizen who sleeps on a good bed wearing clean clothes in a properly prepared chamber is demonstrating the values that separate civilized people from barbarians. Even in sleep, you're participating in the ongoing project of Greek civilization. The transition from wakefulness to sleep is gradual and pleasant. Your breathing deepens and slows. Your muscles relax completely for the first time since you woke up this morning. Your mind begins to drift, letting go of the structured thoughts of the day and opening itself to the more fluid, symbolic communications of dreams. The last thing you're conscious of is the sound of the night, the distant hoot of an owl, the whisper of wind through the olive trees in your courtyard, the almost inaudible breathing of your sleeping household. These sounds create a cocoon of security and peace that surrounds you as you slip into the mysterious realm of sleep. In your dreams, you might find yourself walking through landscapes that are both familiar and strange. The agora of Athens transformed into something grander and more beautiful. The gymnasium filled with athletes whose bodies glow like marble statues. The symposium where you've just spent the evening continuing with conversations that reveal deeper truths than any waking discussion could achieve. Greek theories of dreams suggest that these nocturnal visions aren't just random neural activity, but meaningful communications from the divine realm. The gods might send you warnings about future dangers, advice about important decisions, or simply confirmation that you're living your life in accordance with divine will. The quality of your dreams is seen as a reflection of the quality of your character and your relationship with the gods. Sometimes you might dream of places you've never seen, distant cities where Greek colonies are spreading Hellenic civilization to barbarian lands, or exotic kingdoms where strange customs prevail, but where Greek merchants are welcome because of their reputation for honesty and fair dealing. These dreams connect you to the larger Greek world and remind you that you're part of something greater than just your individual life. Other dreams might take you backward in time to the heroic age when gods and mortals interacted directly and great deeds shaped the world. You might find yourself fighting alongside Achilles at Troy, or sailing with Odysseus through wine-dark seas, or listening to the wisdom of ancient kings who established the customs and laws that still govern Greek life. But perhaps the most meaningful dreams are those that seem to offer glimpses of possible futures, visions of Athens, growing ever more powerful and beautiful, of Greek ideas, spreading throughout the world, of a time when the values you've spent your life defending become the foundation for all human civilization. As the night progresses, your sleep deepens, moving through the cycles that the Greeks don't fully understand, but that they recognize as essential for both physical and spiritual health. Your body repairs itself from the day's activities, building new muscle, healing minor injuries, and preparing for tomorrow's challenges. Your mind sorts through the day's experiences, filing away useful information and discarding what's no longer needed. The linen sheets that seemed so smooth and cool when you first lay down now feel like a second skin, perfectly adapted to your body temperature and position. The wool mattress has molded itself to your shape, providing support exactly where you need it. The down pillow cradles your head in a cloud of softness that allows your neck and spine to maintain their natural alignment. This is the sleep of the civilized person, not the fitful rest of the barbarian who lies on animal skins in a smoky hut, but the deep restorative sleep of someone who understands that proper rest is essential for both physical health and moral development. Tomorrow, you'll wake refreshed and ready to take on the responsibilities of citizenship. But for now, you rest in the confidence that you've lived this day well and prepared properly for the next. The night air circulates gently through your sleeping chamber, carrying away the heat of your body and bringing fresh oxygen to support the slower rhythms of sleep. The brazier burns low, providing just enough warmth to maintain comfort without creating the stifling atmosphere that can lead to disturbed sleep. Everything in your environment has been arranged to promote the kind of rest that allows body and soul to renew themselves. Hours pass in peaceful unconsciousness. Your breathing remains deep and regular. Your body remains still except for the occasional shift into a more comfortable position. Your face, relaxed in sleep, shows the calm confidence of someone who knows his place in the world and is content with the life he's built for himself. Near dawn, your sleep begins to lighten, preparing your body and mind for the return to consciousness. The dreams become less vivid and more fragmentary. Your breathing quickens slightly. Your muscles begin to prepare for the day's activities, but you're still deeply asleep, still protected by the comfortable cocoon of linen and wool that surrounds you. The first birds begin to sing in the courtyard olive trees, but you don't hear them yet. The sky begins to lighten in the east, but the shutters keep your chamber dark. The city begins to stir as early risers start their daily routines, but you remain wrapped in the peaceful isolation of sleep. This is the hour when sleep is deepest and most restorative, when the body completes its most important work of renewal. Your muscles repair themselves from yesterday's exercise at the gymnasium. Your skin renews itself, benefiting from the oils and treatments you applied before bed. Your mind organizes the day's experiences, turning them into memories that will inform future decisions. Soon you'll wake to face another day of the complex social interactions that define life in ancient Athens. You'll dress carefully, choosing clothes that send the right messages about your status and intentions. You'll bathe according to the elaborate rituals that mark you as a civilized person. You'll participate in the public life of the greatest city in the world, but for now, you sleep the sleep of the righteous, comfortable in your linen and wool, protected by your household gods, dreaming the dreams that connect you to the divine realm and prepare you for whatever challenges the new day might bring. And in this sleep, you embody one of the highest achievements of human civilization. The knowledge that rest properly taken is not laziness, but wisdom, not indulgence, but necessity. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and opportunities, new conversations and competitions, new chances to demonstrate the virtues that make a person worthy of citizenship in Athens. But tonight you rest in the confidence that you've lived this day according to the highest standards of Greek civilization, and that you've prepared yourself in body and spirit for whatever tomorrow might hold. The sleep of ancient Athens is peaceful, deep, and restorative, the sleep of people who know they're living at the pinnacle of human achievement, surrounded by beauty, wisdom, and the kind of civilized comfort that makes life worth living. And as you sleep, you're not just resting, you're participating in one of humanity's greatest experiments in living well, creating a pattern of daily life that will inspire people for thousands of years to come. As dawn approaches and your body begins its natural preparation for waking, you're completing a cycle that connects you to countless generations of Greeks who have lived, worked, and dreamed in the city of Athens. The rituals of sleeping, bathing, and dressing that have filled your day are more than just practical necessities. They're expressions of a philosophy of life that sees beauty, dignity, and proper order as essential elements of human existence. In a few hours, you'll wake and begin the process again. The careful selection of clothing that communicates your identity and intentions, the thorough cleaning that marks you as a civilized person, the social interactions that weave you into the fabric of Athenian society. Each element of this daily routine is both individual and communal, personal and political, practical and philosophical. The ancient Greeks understood something that many later civilizations would forget, that how we care for our bodies, how we present ourselves to the world, and how we prepare for rest are not trivial matters, but fundamental expressions of our humanity. The attention they paid to the seemingly simple acts of getting dressed, staying clean, and sleeping well reflected their belief that excellence in small things was the foundation of excellence in great things. Your linen chiton and wool himation, your olive oil and strigil, your rope bed and down pillow. All of these objects represent thousands of years of human innovation and refinement. They're the products of countless craftspeople who devoted their lives to perfecting the materials and techniques that make comfort and beauty possible. And they're part of a cultural system that sees the pursuit of physical well-being as inseparable from the pursuit of wisdom, virtue, and the good life. As you rest in your comfortable bed, surrounded by the peaceful darkness of your sleeping chamber, you're not just an individual taking care of his personal needs. You're a participant in one of humanity's greatest achievements, the creation of a civilization that valued both mind and body, that sought excellence in all things, and that understood that the daily rituals of life could be transformed into expressions of the highest human values. The sleep of ancient Athens is deep and peaceful, the sleep of people who have learned to live well in all the small details that make up a human life. And in that sleep, there's a lesson for all the ages that follow, that civilization isn't just about great monuments and important ideas, but about the wisdom to find beauty and meaning in the simple essential acts that fill our days and nights. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again over the Acropolis, and the cycle will begin anew. But tonight, you rest in the confidence that you've lived this day according to the highest standards your civilization has to offer, clean, properly dressed, and surrounded by the comfort that comes from understanding that taking care of yourself is one of the most important things a human being can do. Sweet dreams, citizen of Athens. The gods watch over your sleep, and tomorrow brings new opportunities to live the examined life in the greatest city the world has ever known.